What I can say is specific to my episode is that I got to shoot in some amazing locations. Jason, Clary get sort of, I guess, teleported to a world that we haven't seen before, so I get to sort of be inventive visually and create a world that is a kind of a big, iconic world in the book series. So that was a lot of fun. And then I got to do some really interesting character work that I'm actually shooting today with Valentine and Sebastian, which is like this really interesting father-son dynamic. So I got to play with certain themes and visuals that were exciting. My style as a director is 100% story-driven. I don't, when I read a script the first time, I have a pretty clear vision of the thematics and the story, and then everything else is sort of secondary. And the visual and the sort of the choices, the stylistic choices, the sort of the beats, they're all story-driven. So every one of my episodes that I've done 5 episodes of Vampire Diaries that I've directed, and I've directed 1 episode of Shadowhunters, and I think they're all relatively individual. I don't think I have a specific style because all the stories are different. Yeah, I also just from a technical level, like, you know, there's certain things you have to do, you know, certain resets. You have to sort of understand the technical aspects of sort of imagining that something's going to be there using VFX or special effects, or, you know, and so there's, I think for someone who's not used to that and comes from, like, you know, maybe shooting strictly detective shows, I think it could be a little bit of a shock to the system, but I was sort of already very aware of how to shoot those sort of, you know, supernatural elements. I mean, Matt's been in Atlanta for the last few years working on the originals, which is the spin-off of the Vampire Diaries, and so I got to know Matt just sort of socially, and also on a work level, I went and did a little, like, sort of crossover guest star on the originals for fun, and just because I thought it'd be good for the character, etc. And Matt directed that episode, and I had obviously been working with Julie Plec, who's our showrunner, and she, you know, she's a big advocate and sponsor of my directing, and she's a big fan, which is great. And so she sort of put in the good word, and sure enough, Matt was kind enough to invite me. It's you know, they're like the nicest cast, and it makes me, you know, I was like, wow, should I have been this nice? You know, they were so accepting and gracious and excited. They're just excited, you know, and in a really great way. They're excited to be at work, and they're excited to try different things. It's nice to work with enthusiastic people that want to do exciting things. It makes my job a hell of a lot easier. And there wasn't a single person on the cast that was not didn't have that mentality. So it was pretty amazing to see. And I also, just in general, when I don't think any type of, like, supernatural characters should ever be, you should ever hit that on the nose. I think it's always about, like, the human elements of any character, regardless of what, even if it's a superhero movie. You know, if you're watching, you know, I don't know, Captain America or something, it's always, that person has to be a relatable human being. So I don't ever look at it that way. Right. I'm excited about this world that I created that Jason and Clary get transported to. We shot some incredible, like, vistas and massive wide shots, and we went up in the mountains, and we, you know, I think this bang for the buck in terms of, like, on a TV level, the scope we got, the sort of, you know, the grand sort of spectrum of what we created. I think it's going to be great. I haven't seen anything, obviously, because I'm still in the middle of shooting, but I'm excited for people to see. It's cinematic, in my opinion, and I think that's hard to get on a show, because you know, 8 days of shooting, and sometimes you're in a studio and you're limited in terms of your locations. And we found this incredible location, and I'm excited to see for fans to see what we've created. As an actor myself, whenever I am directing, I tend to, you know, it's funny, I do the opposite of what people would think I would do, which is get cerebral or analytical or sit. I understand that acting is a very personal experience, and I think that it's important for actors to bring their own sort of intuitive and instinctive drive to a character. So a lot of directors will sometimes come in and overnote or, sit there and try to analyze it from a really objective standpoint, and it kind of becomes this detached performance. And I think working with actors, what I try to do, and I think why they like working with me, is because I understand what it's like for a director to come in and give you this flurry of cerebral, this mass amount of notes. Meanwhile, you've been playing this character for years and you know that character in and out. So I try to just give them the space to create what they want. And I think that actors are appreciative of that respect. And you come in, and when you say something, it's something with meaning. It's something that isn't, divisive. It isn't like a judgment on what they're doing. It's more of a, let's try this. And I try to be somewhat vague unless I really need something specific. I know that sounds kind of, contradictory, but I think it's important to trust actors. And I think I appreciate it when directors trust me. So I always try to trust actors. And I think that you can develop a sense of respect and a great communication that way.